masurangi esena gamane mamana bandina
Good evening. Welcome to this session on rejuvenating with positive energy during the stress pandemic. My dear friends, the whole world, including you and I, are going through a pandemic and through some kind of stress. If we say that we don't have any stress, I think we are deceiving ourselves. So we have the best solution for you at this 47th ARTDO International Conference organized by ARTDO International. I am indeed very happy that the president of ARTDO International for this year, Rita Go, has been able to organize this conference amidst this pandemic situation in a different format. I was greatly honored to be able to host the 46th ARTDO International Conference in Sri Lanka, which was a tremendous success, and I am even more proud that Rita has been able to organize even a better conference, the 47th ARTDO Conference, which you and I are now attending. Before we introduce the next speaker, I would like to inform you some housekeeping arrangements for this particular session and afterwards. Please click the reactions and show your presence so that Karl will know that you are enjoying his session and that you are actively participating. The reaction button, and then you can react. Then if you have any questions, please feel free to type them on the Q&A, and we will take all the questions up at the end. If you have any suggestions, you can make them on the chat. You can put in any comments on the chat, which will be both entertaining, will be educative, and will be encouraging the participants and the speaker. And this is going to be a practical session, so we would encourage you to be in some kind of comfortable clothes so that you can get out there and then follow the stress tests and the stress exercises which Karl will take us through. And final announcement will be that the closing ceremony this evening will be on Zoom. It will not be on AirMeet, this particular platform, but it will be on the platform Zoom, which is, I think, which all of you are well aware of. And the link has been already sent to you, and you can please join the closing ceremony upon the conclusion of this session. So, my dear friends, without much ado, let me introduce our next speaker, Karl LaRowe. He's an international speaker and consultant on how to transform stress and depression into positive energy. Isn't that what we need today? Stress and depression into positive energy. He has over 25 years providing over 1,000 workshops to more than 50,000 professionals across the United States, the Middle East, Southeast Asia. He is the best-selling author of Breath of Relief, Transforming Compassion Fatigue into Flow, and You Are Good Enough, Embracing Who You Really Are. He is a Human Resource Development Fund approved trainer. And my dear friends, why I am close to Karl is because Karl addressed and conducted one workshop in Sri Lanka in 2018, and within a matter of 6 months, so many corporates wanted Karl back in Sri Lanka, and we even had our second workshop in Colombo, Sri Lanka with Karl. So my dear friends, I'm sure you're going to have an exciting 45 minutes ahead with Karl LaRowe. Put your hands together and welcome Karl LaRowe. Over to you, Karl.
Okay, here we are, rejuvenating with positive energy, and let's just start with the kind of stress that we're experiencing today, because, ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a stress pandemic. In fact, the World Health Organization considered stress a pandemic before COVID-19. And I'm serious. That's what the World Health Organization said stress was. It was the second leading cause of disability worldwide, costing the world economy 250 billion US dollars every month or every year in lost productivity. The interesting thing is the number one disability, according to the World Health Organization, is depression. And as you probably know, there's a real relationship between stress and depression. So stress, in a way, actually holds the number one and number two positions in worldwide disability. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, has compounded that tremendously. In fact, the Dr. Tedros, who's the Director General of the World Health Organization, says the impact of the pandemic on people's mental health is already extremely concerning. Social isolation, fear of contagion, and loss of family members is compounded by the distress caused by loss of income and often employment. And I am certain that almost everybody here today has experienced some of this kind of stress as the result of the pandemic. So what we need to do is to learn methods that we can use right away to rejuvenate our positive energy. Because stress, particularly chronic stress, results in negative energy. And many of us are experiencing that right now. Negative feelings, negative emotions, negative thoughts, even gets into our relationships. And so what we need to learn to do today is to begin to learn very simple, easy methods to rejuvenate your positive energy. So the first thing that we want to learn to do, and these are all based, by the way, on MBSR, which is called mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's one of the most researched and utilized forms of stress management in the world today. And the first thing that we need to learn to do is to become more aware of the stress as it's happening. Now, this QR code right here will take you to a video of mine, and I've got numerous videos on my YouTube channel that will actually demonstrate this particular technique that we're going to do right now. So when the conference is over, you can go back to this video if you forget how to do this. So the first thing we want to learn how to do is to become more aware of our feelings and sensations and emotions as they are occurring. Because what happens when we get stressed is we do what's called dissociation. And dissociation is a defense mechanism, but it really means disconnection. In other words, the more stress we get, the more we tend to disconnect from what we're feeling inside. Instead, we get so wrapped up in all of the things we're thinking and all of the stressful thoughts that are going on in our mind that we literally do not pay attention to what's going on in our bodies. And stress occurs in the body. It's not a mental thing, it's a physical thing. And so in order to become more aware of when you're feeling stressed at the time you're feeling stressed, we need to become more aware of what's going on inside of our bodies. So this first technique is called somatic awareness, and it's learning how to bring your attention into your body utilizing what's called the felt sense. See, our bodies are talking to us all the time, but they don't talk to us in words or thoughts. They talk to us in feelings, in sensations. And the most important thing we can begin to learn to do is to listen to what's going on inside of our bodies. Our bodies are constantly trying to give us information when we're open to listening to it. And so what we want to use what's called your felt sense, which is opening up your awareness and even your intuition as to what you're experiencing inside of yourself. Now, the first thing that I want to do, and this is the first exercise, is I want you to imagine that you're having a stressful day. And what I'm going to do here is go back to the view here so that you can see me. Now, the first thing we want to do is to extend our awareness, our attention from inside of our heads and to bring it into our bodies. So I'm going to ask you to do, if you want, you can close your eyes, but you don't have to if you're uncomfortable with that. I want you to bring back to mind a stressful day that you've recently had. Shouldn't be difficult to do. Just think about a really stressful day that you had recently. And as you're bringing that back to mind, allow yourself to feel the feelings, the sensations associated with that stress. So you got it? Everybody have one? A really stressful day that you had recently. Replay it in your mind. And now pay attention to what it is you're feeling inside of yourself. And so I want you to extend your attention from your head into the back of your neck. And these muscles here, called the trapezius muscles, the muscles that connect your neck and your shoulders and your shoulders. Just pay attention to what you're experiencing in that part of your body. Just open yourself up. Whether it's a sense of tension or tightness, squeezing, soreness. These are often the feelings we get because we are unconsciously tensing and tightening these muscles when we're experiencing stress. It's an automatic reaction. So just pay attention to it. What's your body trying to tell you? Now extend your awareness into your chest, particularly the area around your heart. This is the second area that we tend to tense up and tighten when we get very stressed out. In fact, about 75% of the people who go to the emergency room thinking they're having a heart attack are actually having an anxiety attack because we tense these muscles in our chest and we feel the pain. So just allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're experiencing in your chest. Tightness, the tension. We even have words for it. I have a heavy heart, or my heart feels tight. We even have words for it. Just pay attention. Open yourself up. Now extend your attention into your stomach. This is the third place that we tend to hold a lot of stress. We get tightness in our stomach, we get acid, we get rumbling, we get gas, we get pain in our stomachs. And we're often squeezing or tensing our stomachs and literally withholding our breaths. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But just pay attention to what's going on in your stomach. So these are the three areas you want to begin to check in with yourself. Your neck and your shoulders, your chest, and your stomach. And all we need to do is to bring our attention inside a couple of times a day at least to sense and feel what's going on inside of us. Because the stress starts here first before the mind recognizes it. Our mind doesn't recognize the stress until it gets so bad that we have such pain or such acid in our stomachs where we feel like we're having a heart attack. Pay attention to what's happening in your body, because that's the first place you're going to experience stress. Now let's go back to the slides. That is somatic awareness. It's one of the most important tools that we have, and it's simply being more aware of what's going on in your body and opening yourself up to what your body is trying to tell you. It's giving you messages all the time. We need to learn to listen. Now, the next technique is called discharging energy residue. And here's another QR code that'll take you to another video. And by the way, all my videos are on my YouTube channel. Karl LaRowe, that's Karl with the K, L-A-R-O-W-E. My YouTube channel has all of these videos. So this QR code will take you to another video. So energy residue is cumulative stress and trauma that has built up in the nervous system and needs to be discharged. And this is one of the things that happens. The more stress we feel, the more our nervous system produces chemicals like adrenaline and noradrenaline and epinephrine and cortisol. And those chemicals cause us to literally embody and embed the stress in our nervous system, as you just experienced in your neck and shoulders. The reason they're so sore and so tense and tight is because that stress has literally been embedded in there, and it needs to be released. It needs to be discharged. And so this next exercise is we're going to do a very simple, easy movement in coordination with our breath, and at the same time going to visualize and sense and feel the hardened stress energy in your neck and shoulders break down into little pieces as you move. So once again, I'm going to go back to the camera so that you can see me. And this time I've actually got to take off my coat so that you can see how my shoulders move with this exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple, easy movement. And what we're going to do is pull our shoulders forward, up, and then back as we take in a deep breath. And then we're going to release it, discharge it, push all the air out. So this movement's important to do correctly. So I'm going to show you how it's done here. You're going to pull your shoulders forward first. This is the important part. Pull the shoulders forward, then as far up to your ears as you can go, and then back like this, and then release all of the tension and all of the stress. Now, it's important to engage your imagination, to visualize. And as you are pulling your shoulders up, visualize, sense, and feel this tightness beginning to break down into little pieces. In my mind, I see the stress breaking up into tiny little pieces. And so we're going to take a big deep breath from the diaphragm, and we're going to pull our shoulders forward now, up, up, up to your ears as far as you can go. Rotate it back, and then release, release. Push it all the way out. And as you're releasing your breath, imagine all of that stress is coming out with your breath. Let's try a couple of these. Breathe in, big deep breath in. Shoulders forward, up, up. Rotate them back, and then release. Push it out. Push it all the way up. Again, pull the shoulders up, up, up. Back as far as you can, and then again, release. Now you can probably begin to feel a little bit of the relaxation going on in your neck and shoulders, and this is really important. The other thing you're doing is you're feeding yourself with oxygen and energy. So you're discharging the stress as well as giving yourself oxygen and energy. So let me go back to the slides here. And I want to share the next slide because we're going to do a slightly different version of this. And this is called dynamic tension. And here's the QR code for dynamic tension. Dynamic tension is moving tension. And basically what it is, it's tensing a muscle and moving it and then releasing it. So this was developed by a physician in the United States many years ago when he was helping his patients relax, and he noticed that some of his patients, that the tension and the tightness in the muscles was so pronounced, so chronic, that just simply moving them wouldn't release that energy. So he discovered that by tensing the muscle, then moving it, and then releasing it, that embedded energy that embedded tightness can be released. So let's give this a try. So I'll go back to the camera. And so what we're going to do now is tense these muscles up. We're going to tense them up, and in the same way, so tense them up as tense as you can, and in the same way, pull them forward, take in a deep breath, pull them up, tense, 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 rotate them all the way back, and then push it out, push all the air out. Again, tense, really tense, 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 tense. Forward, up, up, rotate them back, and then release, release, and discharge it. I'll bet you felt that, because most people, most of the time, even if we're chronically tense, will feel the release of that pent up energy. And that's what it is. It's this energy residue stuck in the neck and the shoulders. So this is something you can do anytime, anywhere. We ought to be doing it several times a day. I do it in the morning just to get myself going, and then midday, and then before I leave work or leave my office, because that's when we tend to get all that stress. Get into the habit of discharging and releasing stress, because we can't recharge until we discharge. And so it's very important to release that energy residue out of the neck and shoulders. So let's go back to the screen share. And the next topic I want to cover is called natural breathing. So I want you to just consider this for a moment. Most of us, most of the time, breathe unnaturally. We don't breathe in a natural way. Who breathes naturally? Young children. Babies and young children breathe naturally. Adults do not. And if you've ever watched a young baby breathe, you'll notice that their stomachs expand with each breath. What's happened to us, and it usually starts in school, the moment we go to school, what are we taught to do? Sit straight, don't move. We're taught to become statues. And we tend to hold in our breath and our energy. We hold in our stomach. We restrict our feelings. And we're literally coached to do this at a very early age. And then it becomes so natural for us, we don't even think about it. But what we've done is held in and restricted all of the oxygen that's so important for us. Consider this. Your brain is only 2% of your body's weight, yet it consumes up to 25% of your oxygen. Oxygen is energy. It's the most direct, immediate source of energy that we have. To have more and better energy, we must become aware of how we breathe and begin to breathe naturally, which means fully, deeply, and from the diaphragm. My Qigong Sifu always told me that Qigong breath is long, slow, deep, even, fine, and tranquil. Those are the 6 qualities of natural breath. Long, slow, deep, even, fine, and tranquil. And so we have to retrain the way in which we breathe. So once again, let me come out of here and go back to the camera. And this time I'm going to move the camera down here. We're going to learn to breathe from our diaphragm, from our stomach, because again, we do this automatically. We don't even think about it, but almost all of us hold our stomachs in. We're holding our energy in. We're holding our breath in. And we need to learn to let our stomachs out, to relax and allow the breath to become full from the stomach. And we also need to learn to breathe slowly, fully, deeply, so that the oxygen can be absorbed into the bloodstream. When we're breathing these short, shallow breaths, the oxygen cannot get into your bloodstream. And so we need to nurture that oxygen, nurture that energy, let it into the bloodstream, and then we allow our breath to come out. So here's what I want you to do. Just place your hand over your stomach, and we're just going to practice some breathing from the diaphragm. So the first thing to do is I want you to push out all of your old air by pushing in on your stomach. So push it all out. Now breathe in from your stomach. You see how my stomach is expanding and my hand is coming out? So I've relaxed my stomach and I'm letting the air come all the way in. Fill me up completely, and then now reverse, push it out. Slowly push it out. Let it out. Let it out. Push it all the way out. Again, breathe in deeply from the stomach. Allow your stomach to expand. Make room for the oxygen. Allow it to come up into your lungs. Fill you up. Feel the energy of the oxygen. And now release. Let it go. Push it out. Push it out. Push it out. Push it all the way out. See, we don't release our breath. We don't release all of that old oxygen, that spent oxygen. And so we need to allow it to release. So now I want you to do this on your own. Just practice a couple of these breaths on your own. And it's the easiest way to do this is to breathe in to a count of 6 and then out to a count of 6. And again, relax your stomach and allow it to move with your breathing. Take a couple of breaths on your own and just deeply, fully, and naturally. And feel the oxygen fill you up full of calm energy. And then as you release, imagine you're releasing all of your old, tired energy. Exhale out old energy. Breathe in new energy, new vital energy. Now release all of the old energy. When you can, it's the perfect thing to do is to practice the shoulder rotation, discharge your stress, and then take a couple of deep breaths from your diaphragm, and that will begin to recharge your energy. So you have a method now. Discharge and recharge. Discharge and recharge. It'll make a huge difference because a lot of our mood is connected to how we breathe. And so we, again, want that deep, full breath, all of that oxygen filling us up. So let's go back to the slide presentation. So the next thing I want to show you is called rejuvenating your physical energy. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm going to demonstrate the move and invite you to join me in this movement. I used to work in a very, very busy inner city emergency room in the United States. I got burned out and I developed severe depression. I had to quit my job, quit my profession. I was on medication and literally unable to work. And it was right around then that I met my wife, who was from Singapore at that time. I ended up moving to Singapore, and I met a Qigong Sifu, who for some reason was kind enough to show me how to do Qigong. And Qigong, for those of you who've done it or know about it, is very simple easy, fluid motions with breathing, because I call it flow motion, because Qigong movements get your body to flow. Stress causes the body to freeze. In order to reverse that freeze reaction, we need to practice a flowing movement that gets our body to allow the energy to go through us as we're breathing deeply and fully. So I want to show you a exercise. Let me go back to my screen here. I want to show you a very simple, easy exercise. And again, the QR code is to a video that will show you the whole exercise. I'm going to show you and ask you to try one part of that exercise. I'll demonstrate the whole exercise because it's very simple and easy to do. Then we'll practice just one of those motions. And all I want you to do is just to feel the energy, the fluid flowing energy as we do this motion. So I've got to stand up and move back so that you can see me, because this is a standing exercise. So I got to move this a little bit. Now, step on my coat. So I want to move back enough so that you can see my posture and see how I'm standing. So I'm going to invite you all to stand up. And if you look at my posture here, my knees are bent, my back is straight. I'll show you here. Knees are bent, back is straight, and the posture begins like this. So let me show you what the full motion looks like. This is, again, the full flow motion, and it's on the QR code, the video, and it looks like this. This is how it's done. But you sort of sense the fluid energy of the motion as I was moving. When you do this, your body will go into this fluid flowing kind of feeling, which is what you want, this energy feeling inside. So let's do a couple of the first motions. So stand again with your feet a little wider than shoulder width apart. Knees are bent, back is straight. And we'll start with the hands just out here like this. And what we're going to do is take a deep breath in. As you bend your knees, keep your back straight, pull in your hands, and then breathe out. Making a noise. You can tell I'm breathing out. And this is done slowly, fluidly. Again, this is flow. You want your body to flow. So again, we're breathing in, energy in, filling you up, full of energy. And then you are letting go of all your old, tired, stress energy. So let's try a couple of these together. Let's do about 4 or 5 of them and see if you can get yourself into this feeling of flow, because you're having energy go in and out this way, and we're also bouncing the energy up and down this way. So let's try a couple of these motions together. All right, you ready? Breathe in and then out. Slowly, fluidly, not too fast. Breathe in and then out. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In and then out. In and out. Now, if you have any problems at all with your knees, don't bend them so deeply. I like to get the full feeling of the motion, but you don't need to bend the knee so deeply. So if you have any trouble at all, just a little bit so that you can feel the energy. Because again, you've got energy going down and up, in and out. And if you do this for a little period of time, you'll feel the energy going all the way through your body. Let's just try a couple more to get into the flow again. All right, you ready? In and out. Breathe in and out. One more time. Breathe in and out. Can you feel the energy a little bit as you do that? Because I'm hoping you're getting a little piece of that, because what you're getting really is just a tiny taste of it. If you begin to practice that movement fully and deeply, you will notice a remarkable change in your energy. So let me go back again. So again, there's the QR code for that video. And again, that video will lead you through all of the different motions. There are 4 different motions, and I usually have people practice them separately. And then when they've got them all down separately, then put them together in a fluid, flowing motion. And you'll be amazed. If you'll do this, you'll be amazed at what happens to your energy. So let me move on now to what I call regaining control. And this is actually more of a strategy than it is a method or a technique. Because what happens to us when we get so stressed is that it literally affects how our brain works. It really does. The more chronic stress we have, the more emotional we become. There's a little part of our brain called the amygdala, and that's sort of the emotional brain that gets hyperactivated, so that it becomes very easy to sort of lose control of our emotions. And the prefrontal cortex, our sort of control center, that actually gets deactivated, and it becomes harder and harder to think clearly. So we need to learn to regain control when we've gotten into that place to where we're so stressed out, and maybe we're about ready to get really angry, and we might say something that we can't take back, and then later we wished we had said that, and I know everybody's done that. And then you kind of really regret it. And then you go, how did I do that? Why did I say that? How could I lose control like that? Well, that's because the stress that we're experiencing is so chronic, and it literally has this effect on our brains and our capacity to control our emotions and sometimes even our behavior. So pay attention to what's going on inside of you again. Pay attention to what's happening in your body. And if you're beginning to feel that heat rise, that stress energy and that anger and that frustration begin to rise, my first suggestion is to pause. And it sounds easy, but it's difficult, because when it gets to a certain point, it's very difficult to pause. We just feel like we have to say something. But notice it before it gets to that place. Notice it again in your body, in your breath, in what's going on inside of you. And before it reaches that critical point, pause, breathe, and relax. Whoops, that was one too many. Pause, breathe, relax. We need to get control over our nervous system, over our thinking process again, rather than having it control us. In fact, Daniel Goleman, he was the author of the famous book, Emotional Intelligence. He was a Harvard psychologist. He called it an emotional hijacking, and I love that term because it's literally what happens to us. Our emotions hijack our thinking capacity, and sometimes even our ability to control our behavior. So learn to pause, breathe, relax. And when you do that, you literally change the biochemistry in your brain, and you start engaging your thinking mind, and your amygdala, your emotional brain, begins to calm down a little bit. And then at that point, you're in a place to where you can reflect. And reflection is a higher order thinking. Now I can think about what I want to do and then respond. So we want to go from reacting automatically in an emotional hijacking to pausing, breathing, relaxing, and then reflect and respond in a way we want to. The more we do that, the more we literally retrain our nervous system to give us more control. So let me talk a little bit now about creative visualization, because this is another thing that we do automatically. People don't realize it, but we're continually visualizing. Sometimes it's not in images. I mean, we think visualization, it should be an image. Sometimes it's not an image. Sometimes it's an expectation, or sometimes it's a feeling, or sometimes we just kind of know something's going to go wrong. And so we tend to have more reactive visualization than creative visualization. In fact, about 90% of our thought process is reactive rather than creative. And as you might guess, we tend to react more negatively than we do positively. When we go to that baseline reaction, it tends to be negative. And again, we need to catch ourselves doing that. Pause, breathe, relax, let go, discharge the energy, and then create a new program from your mind to work from. Because the research is really pretty clear. When we rely on the old program, it's overwhelmingly negative for most of us, because that's just how we've been brought up, and that's kind of our world today. So the baseline, the fallback, tends to be negative. So we need to consciously create a more positive, creative program. So the first thing to do is to become more aware of habitual, reactive, negative visualization. And that's often when we get into that very intense thinking inside of ourselves, and we're going, oh God, I know it's going to be a terrible day. I don't want to wake up, because the moment I go in, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And we do it so reactively, we do it almost unconsciously, we don't pay attention to it, but we need to pay attention to it. Because I'll bet you, if you pay attention to the first thoughts that come to you when you wake up in the morning, they are not, oh, gee, I can't wait to get to work, I'm so excited. I'll bet you they're a little bit less enthusiastic than that. So we need to pay attention to those thoughts that come into our mind rather habitually, because they, again, tend to be a bit negative, or to the feelings or to the anticipation, because that's also a form of negative visualization. And that's called gratuitous negativity. And it's been studied in positive psychology. And again, it is habitual. It's just how our minds tend to work. So again, what we want to do when you start noticing that negative energy, that negative thinking, particularly when it's going around and around, discharge and release the energy residue. Because negative mental thinking is almost always driven by stressful physical energy residue. So that negative mental thinking is driven by physical stress energy. So discharge and release the energy residue. Imagine, sense, and feel a more realistic, positive outcome. Because if you really start thinking about how many times we say to ourselves, it's all going to go wrong, it's going to fall apart, it's never really accurate. I mean, rarely are things the way that we imagine them to be, in that negative way. So what we want to do is say, well, wait, I don't want that expectation, that visualization in my mind. I'm going to release that. Now let me think about a more positive, realistic outcome. What do I want to happen in my day? And I practice this in the morning, by the way, because I want to program my mind for the day in a realistic, positive outcome. It's called realistic optimism. And it's a very, very powerful tool. So we don't want optimism based on fantasy, on things that will never happen, but based on a more realistic idea of what can happen in our day and our lives. So that is a creative visualization. Now, the last method I want to show you today is called rejuvenating with self-compassion. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we tend to be almost merciless with ourselves, and we judge and we criticize ourselves for various inadequacies or shortcomings. And so we need to stop that. We need to stop being so tremendously hard on ourselves. It's bad for you. It's just very bad for you. And it doesn't make you any better. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't improve your performance. That kind of merciless judging and criticizing is just not something that improves you in any way. And so Dr. Kirsten Neff has actually studied this in her website, selfcompassion.org. And she's done quite a bit of research on it, and they've really found that when people begin to treat themselves with more compassion rather than that angry tirade of judgmental thinking, that we're much less likely to be depressed, anxious, and stressed. And as a result, we're more likely to be happy, resilient, and optimistic about the future. So what I'd like you to do, let's just practice being compassionate with ourselves. So what I'd like you to do is this. I'm going to, again, come back to the camera. So what I'd like you to do is to bring to mind, again, a stressful day, a day in which you were really harsh on yourself. You were saying like really terrible things. You fool, how could you? Why didn't you? You should have known better, and all those other things we say to ourselves. Bring back one of those days, one of those times that you were just really harsh with yourself, and think about all those things that you said to yourself and how that felt inside and what the feelings were and what the thoughts were. Just bring that to mind. You have it? So now let's release. Let's do a couple of shoulder rotations, big, deep breaths, and release those feelings, release that judgmental voice inside your head, let it go. Again, breathe in deep. Big shoulder rotation, rotate back and release. Let go of all of that negative, judgmental feelings and criticism. And now again, I want you to put your left hand on your stomach and just breathe. Breathe in deeply and fully from your diaphragm. Just breathe. And as you're breathing, notice the feeling of warmth and pressure of your hand against your stomach. Just notice that you're literally holding yourself. You're giving to yourself a sense of support. Just let yourself have that feeling. I'm supporting myself. I'm giving myself support. And allow a feeling of safety sort of go from your palm right into your stomach, right into your center. Sense of safety and security. Allow yourself to feel a sense of safety and security inside yourself. Release all the negative judgments, all the negative voices, and let yourself feel safe and secure inside. Just allow that feeling to go from your palm deep into your center, deep into your very center. You can feel safe and secure within yourself. Place your right hand over your heart. And in the same way, allow yourself to feel the warmth and the pressure of your hand against your heart. And imagine you can give to yourself, give to your heart a sense of compassion, sense of kindness, sense of appreciation, the knowledge and the feeling that you are a good person. Allow yourself to give that to yourself. A sense of kindness and compassion towards yourself. And let yourself have these feelings. Let yourself feel and internalize the sense of compassion, sense of kindness. Let yourself have and internalize the feelings of safety and security in your stomach, in your core, in your center, kindness and compassion in your heart. Let those feelings take root deep inside of you. Let them begin to replace the criticism that we tend to have for ourselves. Okay, I hope you can begin to get a feeling and a sensation of that. I do this every single day because the more you do it, the better it gets. The more you practice, the deeper it goes. And you begin to replace that harsh, critical voice with the sense of kindness and compassion inside. So let me now go back to the slides. I want to just leave you with a prescription for positive energy. And it's kind of a review, but just some of the main points. A prescription for positive energy. And the first one is be open and receptive to your feelings and sensations. Let yourself come inside your body to feel, to notice, to sense what's going on inside of you. Don't get trapped in your mind all the time. Be open and receptive to what's going on in your body. Regularly discharge stress and recharge with positive energy. We can't do this enough. Breathe. Practice your breathing. It is your best, most direct, immediate source of positive energy. Breathe. When you notice yourself holding your breath and doing those short, shallow breaths, discharge, relax, and breathe. Visualize consciously and creatively. Don't allow your reactive mind to get into that negative pattern. When you notice that, discharge, release the energy residue, and visualize consciously and creatively. And lastly, practice self-compassion. Practice it every day. Practice it 2 or 3 times a day because we are so harsh with ourselves. We've gotten into the habit of just being literally ruthless with the people, with the person that we are. So practice self-compassion. Finally, I'd like to invite you to the post-conference webinar, Transforming the Stress of Success, 28th January. And again, this is the QR code that will take you to that sign-up page. So thank you for participating with me in this webinar. It's been wonderful being with you. Again, my apologies for losing my internet earlier, but I think we got through it in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karl, for that very interesting presentation and also the practical aspect of busting your stress or becoming a stress buster. Because those practical exercises, especially all of us realized that if we take a deep breath, even if we get angry, I mean, when as young parents we are taught when our kids do something wrong to take a deep breath and not to smack them or shout at them. It's the same science that works with you. Thank you very much, Karl, for taking us through a wonderful presentation. And I'm sure all of us are rejuvenated and will be reinventing in resilience. There's a question for you, Karl. When people are able to take more control of their emotions and to get quality of energy, how to make intermittent recovery? We are not psychologically capable of sustaining highly positive emotions for long periods.
Oh,
How would you
good
answer that?
question. This is a very good question because what it takes is, let me first tell you, we go into a stress reaction 60 times a day, 60. That's what the research shows. That's once every 20 minutes in an 18-hour day. We need to interrupt that. We have become stress masters because we practice it so much. So what we need to begin to do is when we catch ourselves doing that, release it over and over, continue to build up the internal positive energy, because what will begin to happen is as we let go of the negative stress energy and begin to replace that with a reservoir of positive energy, that energy will begin to sustain us. But it takes a considerable amount of practice and transforming the negative into the positive before it becomes strong enough to sustain us throughout the whole day. Again, from positive psychology, it's known that stress or negative energy is something like 5 times stronger than positive energy. Positive energy is not as strong as negative energy. And that's, of course, why everybody's so negative. It's very negative and contagious. So we have to practice it over and over and internalize it more and more. I can tell you from my personal experience, from somebody who is as depressed as a person can possibly be to somebody who has become more and more happy throughout my life, it works. But it's a matter of doing it, practicing it, remembering it on a daily basis.
Thank you very much, Karl. We had 51 participants. I'm sure all 51 participants learned a lot and will be able now to get rid of their stress or at least be less stressed. Thank you for touching on the stress pandemic, then the mindfulness based stress management, then the most stressful day in our recent past. Remembering a stressful day was not that easy, but nevertheless, you took us through that and showed us how first to the neck, then to the chest, and then to the stomach. I think that's the best way to get rid of it. Then the proper breathing habits. I think out of the three, the natural breathing is the most important. Most of the guys who are over 40 are very worried about their stomachs. So, as you say, we try to keep our stomachs in and breathe, not breathe properly. So, thank you very much for reminding us that we need to breathe properly, not worry about our looks and our stomachs. Then, regaining control. Regaining control was a very important aspect you touched on, Karl. To pause, to breathe, to relax, reflect, and then respond. I think that is the best solution for any situation we are in. To pause, breathe, relax, reflect, and then respond. What we try to do normally is we try to respond first and then most of the time end up in a soup. But I'm sure all of us can take this cue for the future and do it the proper way. Then creative visualization was another aspect you touched on, which is very helpful. And then, of course, self-compassion. Some of us would have thought having self-compassion is a negative approach, but you made us aware that it's a positive approach to have self-compassion, and then that is one way of getting out of stress. So the prescription you gave us finally is what we are going to take home, the prescription. Thank you very much for that prescription. And I'm sure all of us, if we follow that prescription, and if Karl can put that prescription once again on the screen, will be helpful for any one of you to make a small note of that. There's one more question, Karl. When people are able to take more control of their emotions and to get, it's the same question, I'm sorry, it's the same question. But I would
Okay.
request Karl to please put that prescription up again. I'm sure most of us will want to take it down.
Okay, here's the first, whoops. So there's the first part of it. Be open and receptive to your feelings and sensations. Regularly discharge stress and recharge with positive energy. It's basically what you said, Janaprith.
Yes.
Breathe, of course. Visualize consciously and creatively rather than reactively and negatively, and practice self-compassion.
All right. Thank you. I hope the participants they had a lot of reactions. Thank you for the reactions. You made us feel that you are in it and you are enjoying it with all those thumbs up and the hair, the claps and the various smileys, emotions. I can see them coming up once again. Thank you very much for those reactions. And once again, I wish to thank our host, Dr. Atif Abdelmageed, our CEO of ARTDO International, who has been working behind the scenes to make this 47th ARTDO International Conference a success. They have been planning this for the last 6 to 7 months because no one knew when the pandemic was going to end. Thank you, Dr. Atif and Rita Go, once again for putting this conference through on this new platform, which is known as AR Meet, which is, I think, very friendly. And all of us, though we are far, it made us feel that we are almost together. Thank you very much, Karl, for that wonderful presentation. And I would invite the participants, as Karl has extended an invitation, for the post-conference webinar on the 28th of January. I'm sure Dr. Atif can share the link, and then you will see most of these 51 participants who attended this session this afternoon, this evening, joining you in the post-conference webinar. So to all of you,
we'll have a lot more time to go into depth. It's a 2-hour presentation, so we'll be able to really go into depth and also do some other kinds of interesting methods as well.
Generally, friends, this is a full day session, which Karl has concised to 1 hour. So webinars on Zoom or on AirMeet, 1 full day is not very practical. But he's done this in Colombo twice, and it has been real good stuff. 1 full day of activity, and people go back rejuvenated, and then their productivity, their performance in the companies has been much more than what they did before. Those are the reports we've got, and that's the reason we had the second workshop as well in Sri Lanka. And thank you very much for all of you from Sri Lanka. I'm Janaprith Fernando, winding off, and then wishing all of you to stay safe, to stay happy, and to be positive with positive energy during this stress pandemic. Never get negative. Always be positive. God bless you and good night. Let's see you at the closing ceremony on Zoom.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you in the closing ceremony.